Matthew Perry was earning $1 million per week and stealing pills from open houses on weekends. At the peak of his fame, the actor spent half of his time in rehabs. He struggled with addiction for 3 decades, and a few years ago, it almost took his life.
My friends call me Maddie, and I should be dead.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Escaped death really narrowly.
But why did Perry turn from all-beloved sitcom actor into an addict? And how did his friends' co-stars try to help him? Matthew is adored for his portrayal of Chandler Bing in the iconic series. On the show, he looked happy, all his jokes were on point, and his life seemed perfect. But the reality was completely different. After entertaining everyone on the set, Matthew would go home and hit the bottle. Alcohol was his best friend. He couldn't stop. To him, it was like to stop breathing. After all, the problem began years before he found fame. As a kid, Matthew often felt lonely and like he didn't belong anywhere. At the age of 14, he started drinking, trying to fill the void inside. He'd do it with his friends, and then he'd come home and drink some more. Yet the void remained. Matthew hoped that fame might help with that emptiness inside, but he was disappointed once again.
And that was a dark day for me when I realized that it did not do that.
He had a new fear of not being funny enough. Perry dreaded the moment that he'd say a joke and it was met with silence.
I felt like I was gonna die if they didn't laugh. If I didn't get the laugh I was supposed to get, I would freak out.
It would take you down.
Yeah.
Yet even more serious troubles were to come. While filming the movie Fools Rush In, Perry got into a jet ski accident. He was in pain, so a doctor prescribed Vicodin, and at that moment, the actor felt as if warm honey entered his veins.
I swear to God, I think if I'd never taken it, none of the next 3 decades would have gone the way they did.
And soon enough, Perry lost control. At one point, he was taking 55 Vicodin pills a day. For years, Matthew would wake up every morning and think about where he'd get his next fix. He'd do anything to find it. I would fake back injuries. I would fake migraine headaches. I had 8 doctors going at the same time. And he'd resort to the most shameless ways.
On Sundays, I would go to open houses and go to the bathrooms, see what pills they had in there and steal them.
Yet Perry always tried to make sure that his addiction didn't interfere with his work. He'd never come to set under the influence, but it doesn't mean that he was fine.
But I would show up blindly hungover, like shaking and crazy hungover.
At some point, his problems got so big that Matthew no longer understood where he was or what he was doing. The actor was so spaced out that now he can't even recall 3 years on the set of Friends, and it still pains him to see Chandler in some of the episodes.
But it's hard to watch that.
Because the actor remembers very vividly how much he was struggling back then. Yet, Friends fans never noticed that something was wrong. Matthew shared that his appearance revealed what was going on with him.
When I'm carrying weight, it's alcohol. When I'm skinny, it's pills.
Although he tried to hide his addiction from everyone, Perry's co-stars saw it all. Once Jennifer Aniston came to his trailer and said that they knew he was drinking. Surprised, Matthew asked how they'd found out, and she replied that they could smell it. It was hard for Perry's co-stars to see him in this condition. They tried to bring him to his senses and confronted him a few times. Naturally, they wanted to help, but he wasn't open to it at that moment. I wasn't ready to hear it. You can't tell anyone to get sober. It has to come from you. Aniston was the one who reached out to him the most.
We weren't equipped. We weren't to deal with it. You know, nobody had ever dealt with that.
They were all terrified of losing him. But they couldn't do anything, only remain patient and wait for Matthew to be ready. At the highest point of his character, Chandler and Monica's wedding, the actor was at his lowest. Right after filming that episode, he was driven to a treatment center for another detox. Of course, his co-stars were worried and always tried to be there for him. And at some point, their concern worked. In season 9, Perry was sober throughout. That was the only season for which he received an Emmy nomination for Best Actor. He knew that he had to remain clear-headed. But time after time, he'd fall off the wagon again.
You can't have a drug problem for 30 years and then expect to have it be solved in 28 days.
Over 3 decades, Perry was in rehab 15 times and went through 65 detox treatments. He spent more than half of his life trying to get sober and paid over $7 million for it all. And thanks to his fame, every low moment was photographed. Quite often he was mocked for the way that he looked. But Matthew kept going.
If the police came over to my house and said, if you drink tonight, we're going to take you to jail, I'd start packing for jail because I didn't know how to. I couldn't stop.
Finally, in 2018, a near-death experience changed everything. Perry was admitted to an emergency room with a burst colon caused by years of overusing opioids. His condition was so serious that the doctors gave him a 2% chance of making it through the night. The actor spent 2 weeks in a coma and 5 months in hospital. At first, he couldn't move or even talk. Matthew just lay there in the hospital, hating himself for not stopping sooner. The shame, the loneliness, the regret were too much to handle. There was no dealing with it. Soon the actor started thinking about why he was still alive.
Why was I spared? Every doctor in the world says that person should be dead.
This whole experience was the final straw. Matthew realized that he either had to stop or he'd lose his life. And the actor believed that he'd survived for a reason.
The most important thing is always to get outside of your head and help another person.
Obviously, because I was on Friends, more people will listen to me. So I've got to take advantage of that. I've got to help as many people as I can.
It wasn't the first time he'd tried to help others. For 2 years, the actor ran a sober living home in California. But he decided that he could do more. After the Friends reunion ad, Perry started writing his book. He didn't do it earlier because he wanted to be sure that he was pretty safely sober. The actor titled his memoir, Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing. And his Friends co-star Lisa Kudrow wrote a foreword for it. He decided not to hide anything, even the scariest details.
And it's important to get it out there and not have it be a secret.
These days, Matthew feels better that the truth is out. The actor is grateful to be alive. His health is pretty good, and he's stopped struggling with self-doubt.
And now I finally feel okay and feel like I've got some strength.
The next thing Matthew wants to do is get married and start a family. He believes that as long as he has those who he loves by his side, he'll be fine. Because without the support of those closest to him, including his Friends co-stars, he wouldn't be sober.
The big terrible thing is far too powerful for anyone to defeat alone. But together, one day at a time, we can beat it down.
Yeah, I believe that's true.
Even after all the troubles Matthew has been through, he still strives to help others and teaches that no one is alone in their struggle.